Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. So the team over at Rareberg have decided they wanted to set me a challenge, and that challenge is to restore a vintage Star Wars Empire Strikes Back Snowspeeder. If you haven't checked out rareberg.com yet, do. It's a great site where you can list and sell your collectible items and also get them valued and appraised. If you go over there now, you can check out, I've been uploading some of my collection if you want to see those items in greater detail. I'll put a link in the description of this video. So the challenge they've set me is, as you can see here, they've picked up the remains of a vintage Snowspeeder. It's actually in not too bad a condition. There's very few markings on it. It's pretty dirty actually, and a lot of sort of minor marks, but is missing most things. Actually, just inside the back here you can see there's a few parts to the gun, but that's about it. It's missing the battery cover, the gun on the back. It's also missing a cockpit, everything pretty much, even the sort of rear jets are missing. But and I have tried the electronics, but they don't work, so that will also need fixing. So the first thing I'm going to do in this video is to take this all apart, unscrew everything and give everything a thoroughly good clean, and also remove these stickers, because they've actually been, some of them are okay, but a lot of them have been put on in the wrong place, and some are sort of folded up and damaged on the bottom. So I think I'm going to remove those, and in the end I'm going to do some sort of custom vintage style sticker work on it to make it look more screen accurate, but in a vintage Kenner style. So first up, let's get this ship in pieces. Taking the Snowspeeder apart is one of the easier jobs because it's basically just got a few screws on the bottom, as you can see here, but you also have to remember that there are two screws inside the cockpit, here and here, and if you don't undo those then you can't get the ship apart. Also, you can remove an awful lot of bits if your ship is more complete than this. There are quite a few pieces you can take, so let's get this unscrewed and we can see what's inside. So I've now removed all the screws, and you have to be a little bit careful when taking this apart that the bottom landing gear is spring loaded. So if you take the top portion of the ship away, like so, the spring loaded mechanism is held under the seating section. So if I now lift this out carefully, you can see where everything is, and here is the landing gear, and there's a spring attached to the landing gear. So just make sure you take that out carefully and don't lose the spring, which is attached to the side of the foot, like so. And then there is also the section that moves back and forward that holds the foot in place. Now that I have the ship apart, you can see all of the electronics that are inside it. I need to remove this before I can start cleaning it. Luckily on the Snowspeeder everything is quite straightforward to remove. The battery clips, you can actually take these out by just slightly bending the two little clips that hold them in place on either side. But in this instance I'm not going to bother because these actually are in pretty nice condition. There's no corrosion on them, so I can just unplug the electronics. As you can see here, these bits come they pull straight off there, and that one straight comes off there, and then there's just some tape that you can remove and then pull all of the wiring out. Nothing is held in place any firmer than just with some tape. Go all the way around, pull the ones out on the other side, like so. The lights just pull out. They're not even held in firmly. And then finally you've got this sort of motor and gear system here, and this will just sort of rises off. There's a peg there that it is sort of held in place with when the top is screwed on, but so without that you can just pull it off, and we can for the moment put this to one side. So now we have all the ship in pieces. So I'm going to go and wash this using some really hot soapy water and a toothbrush to carefully sort of scrub out all of the dirty areas. As you can see, there's dirt even inside this one, and we'll get this all as clean as it possibly can be. To wash the ship I use hot water and a bit of washing up liquid mixed in a bowl, and then I just drop the pieces of the ship into it and let them soak for a short while, and then using an old toothbrush you can brush away all of the old dirt and grime that gets caught up in all the small holes and marks that are all over the ship. If the ship has stickers that you don't want to get damaged, then don't immerse the ship in water. Just bring the water on a toothbrush to the ship and wash the dirt away gently. In this instance, I'm not worried about the stickers and I'm actually going to remove them. So I've immersed the entire ship in water. And then let them dry off and give them a towel down, and you're ready for the next stage. And here you can see the top part of the ship after it's been washed. Now this has a final few marks that I need to get off that the hot water and toothbrush didn't manage to do. As you can see on the front here, there's still a bit of sticker residue where I've removed one of the stickers, and there's a few little marks, as you can see there. There's a small black mark. Now to get rid of those, I use lighter fluid. You can pick this up from most news agents. So just a small amount of lighter fluid. You can, on the sticker residue, just put a little bit of the lighter fluid on, and then get a bit of kitchen cloth and put a little bit on that. And the lighter fluid will nicely get rid of some of these marks. So you can see there actually that mark has gone straight away. Just takes a little bit more than washing up liquid. Actually you can see here there are a couple of black marks. So again, just bit of a rub with the lighter fluid and those have instantly gone. And now I can also work on this sticker. The lighter fluid just soaks in a bit, and then using my thumbnail I can scrape away the sticker residue, as you can see here, and we'll get this as clean as it possibly can be. Just takes a little bit of force there on the nail. If it starts getting stuck, just a little bit more lighter fluid on it, and then you can wipe away the excess and the sticker residue with the kitchen towel. So I'm going to go ahead and clean off the rest of the marks on this ship, and then we'll start looking at the electronics. So here we have the electronic part of the Snowspeeder. Now all of these old Star Wars toys work on roughly the same sort of design, so fixing them is normally pretty easy. They normally have a laser sound, which is not really a laser sound, it's a motor with a gear on it and a small piece of plastic that rubs against the gear, so as the motor turns it makes a sort of screeching noise. Now the Snowspeeder has two lights on it, as you can see here, and these should flash, and that, again, this is done using the motor. If you look carefully in there you can see a small piece of metal, and as the gears turn that piece of metal is pressed against the contact, and then as the gear goes round it's unpressed, and that causes the lights to flash. Now I noticed when I took the this wiring out of the Snowspeeder that actually the reason it didn't work is quite obvious. Something's come unsoldered here, so I've just got to solder these two bits of wire back together, and hopefully that should fix everything. So let's go ahead and get that soldered and we'll see if this mechanism works. So now we've proved that works, we can put this back in the ship. Putting the electrics back in the ship is a fairly straightforward job, as everything just sort of slots neatly in place, and quite obviously the motor section goes right at the back here, and there's a small hole as you can see in the motor board that fits on a peg right on the back. So if we do that bit first, that goes in there, and then the wires all sort of sprawl around the ship, but it's fairly obvious where they go, and there's the first bulb here goes in a small slot on the right hand side like so, and you can just sort of push the wires down. Originally the wires were taped in place. I don't tend to bother taping them back in because nothing particularly moves about in the ship, and there's small clips that you can just push the wires behind as you go. So we just get this all around the front. Again, there's small little slots that you can slot these wires into, and then come back round this side, and again this left hand bulb just goes in the left hand bulb slot there, just sort of squeezes in place. And then you get up to the contacts at the back. Now these two wires have to go around a certain way. You've got a blue wire and then three wires, a white, a red and a black wire. The blue wire goes on the socket nearest you, and you just push that in place like so, and then the one with the three wires goes at the back there, and just push that on, make sure it's gone on quite firmly, and that's the electronics back in the ship. It looks a bit ugly and a bit unwieldy, but that's pretty much how it was when we took the ship apart. We can now go ahead and put the basics of the body back together. One thing I like to do when restoring ships like this is make sure that all these screws are rust free when I put them back in. Luckily on this ship most of the screws were in a pretty good condition, but a couple of them had rust on them, as you can see here. So the easiest way I've found to get rid of rust is basically take your screw. I've got a small bit of white vinegar here. Just drop the screw in the white vinegar for sort of 10 or 15 minutes. And after that, take it out and you can wipe the rust off with a cloth. So we'll leave this in there for a short time and then we'll clean the rust away. So the screw has now been in there for sort of 10 minutes. If I take it out and I can wipe it on a piece of tissue. If there's any sort of bits jammed in the end, as it's quite a hard area to get to, you can just use either a cotton bud like I have here and sort of push that into the end. And that will get the rust out, or if it's too small for that, then just again use the tweezers and push a piece of tissue into the end and sort of wiggle it around like that. And as you can see, that screw is now nice and shiny again and all the rust has gone, so we can go ahead and put the Snowspeeder back together. Putting the body back is a little bit fiddly just because there's a few elements that that need to be spring loaded and also want to sort of ping out of the way all the time. So let's deal with these bits first. So there is the cover that holds the landing gear in, and that goes in the back slot here. Make sure this little peg goes through the hole there and just slot that in place. Next we have to add the landing gear, and if you remember when I took the ship apart there was a small spring which I have here. Now you need to put this spring onto the landing gear with the small section aiming forwards, and the spring needs to go on this way round like so. Then you can drop it through the slot on the bottom of the ship, and the spring and also the sort of pivot point need to end up facing with the spring forwards, and then I can show you here that the landing gear can be rotated up and the spring pushes the landing gear back down again. So that's all in place like that. Then you take the seat section, and this again has a definite front and back. The front has a small lip on it like that. If you notice, the back doesn't. So you push that in place like so. Now at this point, this is where it gets a little bit fiddly because you cannot lay this ship down anymore because you've got the landing gear on the bottom. If you lay it down, it all pushes out of place. So you just have to hold it in one hand and take this top section of the ship and place it over. And it lines up pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy to do. Like so, and now make sure to keep holding everything in place, and you can turn it over and start putting the screws back in place, and you can see that the landing gear is in the correct position. So if I just grab some screws here and I can start screwing this all back together. When putting in the final two screws that are located next to the seats, sometimes it's easier just to use a small set of tweezers like this because these are particularly hard to get in. You can either get a magnetic screwdriver or a pair of tweezers like that, and then it makes the job much easier. And now that the ship's back together, we can do one final test to check that the electrics work. So if I just press the button on the bottom like so, you can hear it makes a laser noise, and if I aim this towards the camera and press the button again, you can see that the lights flash. So there we have it. That's the first part of this restoration and customization job done. I've cleaned up the Snowspeeder and it's all looking pretty good. I'm actually not going to bother de-yellowing this, is because the plastic of this ship is actually in really nice condition, so I don't think it's worth the effort. But it's all clean now and we have the electronics portion working. So for the next video I'm going to try and source a lot of the missing parts that obviously didn't come with this ship. So if anyone can help me with bits for Snowspeeders, then please get in touch. I've got toy-polloi badges that I give out to anyone who helps me with any of the projects on this channel. These are limited edition and only people who help me get a toy-polloi badge. So if you'd like one, get in touch and join me in the second part where I will start doing some more customization and finishing off this project for the team at Rareberg. So thanks for watching and join me in part 2.